Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. I hope everyone is doing wonderfully well on this Sunday evening. Plenty of action to review today. Plenty of action to look back on from the All-Ireland Club Senior Football Championship. Plenty of big results in the Leinster Club Championship, the Ulster Club Championship, and even the Limerick Football Final as well. And obviously, we'll be discussing the Ballygunner victory as well over Kilrowan McDonagh's in the opening round of the Munster Club Senior Hurling Championship. Just a reminder, we're brought to you by Declan Kirby GAA Star, the best children's book out there in the market at the minute. You can find it on Amazon, Easons, all good bookshops, so make sure to check that out when you get a chance. Matthew, how is things with you? I suppose very busy weekend of club action, thrills and spills, shocks, and I suppose some of the favourites living up to the hype in Kilmacud, Crokes and Ballygunner, but overall, another very enthralling weekend in the, opening weekend, really, of some provincial club championships.
Yeah, absolutely, Aaron, and thanks for having me on your channel again. It was an entertaining weekend, especially on Saturday night when Crossmaglen lost, and everybody, including the three of us and John's podcast, were saying Crossmaglen would walk us, and then Ballybay shut us all up with that brilliant performance, and that to follow the rugby as well. I mean, that must have been some Saturday night entertainment for the sport fanatic, without a doubt Reece McClenaghan winning as well. So, geez, it was a brilliant sports Saturday, but today, it kind of doured out a small bit, like Ballygunner, put on the accelerator and finished Kilrowan McDonough off. Kilmacud, Naas didn't really put up a challenge. Only in the first few minutes we were talking a bit about that off air. But other than that, the Leinster Club Championship, other results, bit of surprise here and there. I suppose what surprised me was the Downs hammering RD the way they did in their quarterfinal. But look, brilliant entertainment this weekend, especially on Saturday, and looking forward to delving into it.
Absolutely, yeah. Certainly plenty of results to get through. So for anyone who's watching, make sure to get your comments in live or even afterwards as well. I know there was plenty of junior intermediate games across the country as well. Obviously, we won't be reviewing them, but for anyone who was watching any of those games, feel free to get your comments in, and we'll get them up on the screen. I suppose we'll start with the Ballybay result. It was Ballybay 2-11, Crossmaglen Rangers 1-9. Suppose, as you were saying, we were on John McMahon's podcast, the JMac podcast. Make sure to check it out. There's a nice little plug for yourself there, John. We were saying on that podcast there, Crossmaglen, surely with the talent levels that they have, with the players that they have, will have enough to come through. But it was one-sided, but it was one-sided the complete other way in Ballybay Brother Pierce's. I mean, what an unbelievable performance from them. Paul Finlay, Drew Wiley, Desi Ward, rolling back the years, and as I said to you off camera, there's life in the old dog, yeah?
Exactly. So, and it was a brilliant performance by them, Ballybay. I looked at I was doing stats on the game. Obviously, I was looking at the two teams. I was looking at Ballybay's players. I was thinking, okay, they could put up a challenge to Crossmaglen. Maybe we're a bit too harsh on them on Thursday night. But then, once the game started, Crossmaglen actually got off to the better start after Shane McGuinness scored that penalty. And when Rian O'Neill scored that outstanding goal, by the way, brilliant, intricate passing from Crossmaglen, we're all thinking Crossmaglen are going to walk this. But, they had the wind in the first half and they didn't take advantage of it, really. Ballybay did well enough against the winds. They were only a point down. And the key part was the third quarter. Ballybay, I checked the stats over. They scored 1-7 to Crossmaglen's 1 point. That's what changed the game completely. And it was a brilliant performance in the second half from Ballybay. Drew Wiley was on Rian O'Neill all night. Rian O'Neill only hit one outstanding scores, yes, but he was reduced to nothing really in this game. Keane McConville, as we said off camera as well, wasn't in the game particularly. Aaron Kernan didn't have much of an influence. Jamie Clark only berated the referee and scored 1 point. That was about it from him. So they didn't perform particularly well, Crossmaglen. They didn't cover themselves in glory, but Ballybay, what a performance by them. And even, you mentioned, Finlay, Drew Wiley, Desi Ward, even the McGuinness brothers as well, Shane and Christopher, the full forward line, were outstanding, I thought, for them. Their kickouts was excellent. Their shooting was pretty good. And I was really, really impressed with this Ballybay team. And it wouldn't be surprised now if they go on an Ulster run. I know they've Kilcoo in the next round, but Kilcoo, they haven't really lived up to the billing in performance-wise in the Down Championship this season. So Ballybay might cause a few more shocks yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you look at how well they played and how well they brushed aside Crossmaglen, like as you said there, Paul Finlay obviously making his Ulster Club Senior Football Championship debut at 39, 4 points. Like he was very, very impressive. Desi Ward in around the middle, Drew Wiley, as you mentioned before, like a lot of very, very good players. And look, Kilmacud will be the favourites, obviously, given the fact that they're the All-Ireland champions. And although they have looked inconsistent and down, like they do have a tremendous amount of talent themselves. So, but look, I mean, that's going to be an interesting game. But what even makes it more interesting as well is the Ballybay manager, Jerome Johnston, is, of course, the dad of 3 players who play on the Kilmacud side. I presume that's the likes of Jerome Johnston, Sheelan Johnson as well. I can't remember the other one, but I mean, that's quite incredible as well.
Yeah, I was hearing rumours on Twitter that he'd actually resign because he's facing his sons. I mean, like, jeez, if that happens, I don't know. That's bad for him. That really is bad for him, though. I don't want to be joking about this after a brilliant win for Ballybay last night, but Jesus, if that happens, Aaron, I mean, where's the GAA gone? You know, after a brilliant win against Crossmaglen, you could basically go from 0 to 0, setting up your team brilliantly to defeat a brilliant team, the second most successful team in All Ireland in the past few years in club, to then quitting the job because your sons play for the opposition. I mean, geez, I'm not sure has that ever happened really. Like 3 of your sons you're up against. I think it's happened a few other times. I think in inter-county level it actually happened a few times. I'm not entirely sure now, but it's definitely happened in soccer. I remember some guy, Vladimir Weiss, he was the Georgian manager. He played against Slovakia where his son was playing on the wing. So it can happen, but 3 of your sons. I mean, I don't think that's ever happened really, but I think it's happened with a manager with one of his sons at least. But if that was to happen, if he was to quit his job, I mean, that would be a disgrace, to be honest with you. But I was just hearing rumours for Twitter. As we all know, Twitter isn't the most reliable source, as Elon Musk might have found out in the last few weeks. But you know, it's a rumour there. But Jesus, if that happens, Aaron, I don't know what the GAA is coming to be honest with you. But geez, it could happen. And if it does, there'll be a lot of scandal over it.
Yeah, like that would be a big surprise. Like you'd wonder maybe maybe the Suns shouldn't play. Do you know what I mean? Like if he's willing to step away, maybe, you know, but I suppose that's probably too much of an ask. Like it is weird though, like because there is going to be a huge conflict of interest. Like I'm not sure in terms of living scenarios of, you know, the Suns still live with the manager or whatever. I don't really know, like, but you know, like it'd be weird kind of, you know, sitting over dinner and everything else, especially kind of leading up to the game. And you know, like obviously the Suns would know a lot about their dad in terms of his management style, maybe, or how he's going to set the team up. And then obviously he's going to know a lot about these players as well. Like, so it's going to be very, very fascinating.
It is, yeah. And even if he stays on, like he'd know who Drew Wiley will pick up, for example, or even players around the backline, players in midfield, like Desi Ward, for example. Would he drop him back? Like it's sort of an interesting now. What tactics is the manager actually going to use if he does stay on the job, of course? But yeah, the Suns will know what goes through their mind. I'm assuming now. I don't know the Johnsons. Obviously, I don't know that you don't know the Johnsons. Nobody knows the Johnsons around these circuits, to be honest with you, on a personal level. But I would assume that they're not living with each other, to be honest with you. I think they might have moved one or two of them maybe. I think they're young enough though, so maybe they are living with each other. If they are, Jesus, like it'll be some conversation over dinner though. Like, will they be throwing plates at each other? Will they be revving each other up? Geez, it'll be a hard job for the mother though to settle it all down. She'll be kind of the referee in the whole household now, so it'll be very, very interesting. You have to put cameras in that house now because that'll be some entertainment.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think, yeah, keeping up with the Johnsons, maybe we should make a show over or something like that, you know. But nonetheless, it is going to be a very fascinating game, and certainly for Ballybay with how well they played, I'm sure they'll look to give a good run for their money. In terms of Crossmaglen, like just finishing up on them, like I mean, obviously a very disappointing performance from themselves. Like they hit, I think, 1-5 in the first half, just 4 points in the second half. Like nowhere really at the races at all in the second half. As I was saying to you off air, like it looked like when you looked at the two sides, like Ballybay looked like a team of men, you know, like players in their mid-30s, late 20s, early 30s, whereas Crossmaglen, very young side, almost looked a bit like an under-20 team in many ways. You know, like, so I suppose maybe like a bit of inexperience, sort of panic maybe setting in, obviously playing in the athletic grounds as well, where most are, you know, family and friends are going to be watching in on, you know, on the sideline and whatnot. So like they've got a very, very good players. There's, you know, group of players. They're certainly not going to be going anywhere. But at the same time, like a big, big learning curve nonetheless for Crossmaglen, for the likes of O'Neill, McConville, and all the rest of the lads.
And like I was doing stats on the game obviously last night, and even looking at the key one probably was the frees conceded. They conceded over 20 frees, 22 to be exact. Ballybay conceded 12. And when you look at the scores from play, actually, they were both level, 1-7 apiece. Look, I think honestly it was the Crossmaglen lads panicking. I don't know what it was. Like even Jamie Clark, one of the most experienced guys, epitomised that really in the second half, where he wins a free and then he's berating the referee afterwards, and then it's a throw ball. I mean, you're chasing the game at that stage. I don't know why he's doing that. And even the bit of inexperience, the black card, which was a key thing. I'm not sure. I think it was Darrow Callan, his name, who got the black card for pushing a Ballybay player. I mean, that was needless. That was off the ball. I don't know why he did it, to be honest with you. And that cost his team a place in the Ulster quarterfinal. As simple as that. And like even looking at other stats as well, like their shooting was actually better than Ballybay's, but I just think the foul count was ridiculous. And you can't have that against a side like Ballybay with Jesse Ward or Paul Findlay indeed over the ball taking you free. They're going to knock it over every time, you know. So that's a learning curve that Crossmaglen need to go over. I would have thought that Aaron Cornan really would have been, you know, the calming influence of the team. It didn't seem that way. I don't know, they were just all over the place. Their manager was even complaining on the sideline. Like it looked pretty disorganised really from Crossmaglen. And even at the start of the second half, when they were down to 14 men, you were thinking, okay, we'll sit back, we'll try and protect something, some bit of you know, a deficit or something like that. Maybe 2 points down once Darrow Callan gets back at the field. But the reality was, Ballybay got a goal. I mean, and when you look at the goal back again, Crossmaglen were all over the place. Like they were pushing for a point to maybe level it rather than just settling it down. I think Aaron Cornan actually said it as well. We need to settle it down, lads. So I think he was saying that, and someone like Darragh Maloney was trying to lip read him. Settle it down and, you know, reduce the margin. But they tried pushing up. They pushed up a few players. Ballybay robbed the ball, go down the other end, goal. And that's game over then. And yeah, I think they were inexperienced, but maybe there's a question mark over, because a lot of Armagh fans have gone on to me saying Crossmaglen were way ahead in the Armagh Championship. And maybe it does beg the question, is the Armagh Championship that good? You know, we'll have to see over the next few years. But if once Crossmaglen develop into big men, really. But I suppose it was the free count that was the big thing, and inexperience, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was just looking back there, like I think from what I remember of Clan Aaron last year, who won the Armagh Senior Football Championship, I think they might have got beat. Was just gonna have a look there. I'll see if I can find it here very quickly.
In the semi-final, I think.
Being in the semi, yeah, but Derry Connolly, that was the one. Yeah, I knew there was a shock there somewhere that I was thinking of. And obviously Derry Connolly, a team coming from Armagh, like I think most people would look at the Armagh team as a favourite or whatever. Like but yeah, as you said there, like a surprising result from a Crossmaglen point of view in terms of their performance, really. Maybe it does show that the Armagh Football Championship isn't quite as high as what we think. And yeah, like what you said, like definitely a lot of indiscipline, giving away frees. Like Rian O'Neill could have been black carded at one point. There was another scenario, I think after Rian O'Neill's goal, actually, like Jamie Clark was coming out. They were celebrating, and it looked like Jamie Clark just, you know, shouldered one of the players as he was coming out. It just seemed quite needless, to be honest. They seemed very emotional, like, and even you seen Aaron Kiernan at full time sort of on the sideline looking very upset and everything else. Like it just seemed like maybe the emotions or something kind of got to them, like with the manager as well. And like Ballybay seemed very composed, whereas Crossmaglen just seemed very sort of, yeah, I don't know, just not on the same sync as each other.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what it was. Like Aaron Curran would have been, I thought anyway, he would have been a calming influence on the team. And in some ways he was, but maybe they needed about 5 Aaron Curnans on the field. Because they just said young players like Rian O'Neill is a very, very good player. And we know how good he is. Epitomised by the goal last night. It was an incredible finish. But he is still relatively young. Like, I think Rian O'Neill's about 23, 24 now. So that's not particularly old in a way. But Conville, I think, is, if not in his 20s, I would say even just turned 20 now. And there's a lot of them players like James Morgan, I thought would have taken up the handle a small bit as well. Jamie Clark is only really back into GAA this season. So maybe he didn't, is it experience enough to the modern game or something like that? I don't know what it was. But I think, honestly, they were just conceding needless frees. And even Rian O'Neill should have got a black card. Darragh Callahan did get a black card for similarly something really stupid. I don't know why he did it. Like, even looking at the replay, it was off the ball. Your man, the number 17 for Ballybay, wasn't doing a whole lot, really. I think it was Gallagher, his name was. And he just shoves him. I mean, when the game is in the melting pot like that, the last thing you should do when you're against the wind in the second half, particularly at the start of it, when Ballybay were going to have a purple patch, the last thing you should do is do something stupid that would affect your teammates. And I think that was the change of the game. A lot of people would say the goal or Drew Wiley's tackle or Paul Finlay having an influence. I think that was the change point in the game, that black card. I mean, it was needless. It was stupendous. I don't know why he did it, to be honest with you. And in the end, Crossmaglen only scored 1 point, I think, or maybe even none, when he was off the field. I mean, that was the change point in the game. And Dara Piston boys had experience, their foul count, everything from Crossmaglen. It was all over the place, really.
Yeah, well, at one stage in the second half, like, they were outscored 1-7 to a point, as you mentioned previously. Like, so there was clearly did have a huge effect, and obviously they were playing against the Breeze as well at the start of the second half. Did they really make the most of playing with the Breeze in the first half? I'm not entirely sure, but look, they've plenty of good players, plenty of talent there, and certainly with the level that Armagh football are at as well, the intercounty team, I'm sure these players are going to gain more experience in the next couple of years, and I'm sure they'll be thereabouts come next year. Shane says here, didn't watch the game. How did Shane Walsh play in relation to Kilmacud Crokes versus Naas? Yeah, like, I mean, by his high standards, look at probably what he wasn't, he didn't carry Kilmacud Crokes to victory like he probably did against Na Fianna. He was quiet at different points, still scored 4 points, and there was 1 or 2 brilliant points I remember in there. Support play was fairly good. I wouldn't say he had a bad game, but like, Kilmacud Crokes, like, I think the story really of them and moving on to their win against Naas, it was Kilmacud Crokes 3-14, Naas 14 points. Like, the story really about this Kilmacud Crokes team, in my opinion, today is that they are more than Shane Walsh, and I think most people would have already realised that. You don't win the All-Ireland. You're not All-Ireland favourites based off one player, one star player. He might be the difference maybe in the close games and the tight games, like against Na Fianna, for example. But in these type of games, you'll have players that will step up, the likes of your Shane Cunninghams, Tom Fox coming off the bench, Darragh Mullen obviously as well, Craig Diaz. Like, even Conor Ferris, I thought in goal, was very, very good with his kickouts. And I think he's a player that's gone really, really under the radar, in my opinion. But yeah, what were your thoughts on this? Like, very, very good game for Kilmacud Crokes. I was at the game. You were obviously watching on TV, and I suppose, like, Crokes just really putting Naas to the fore, and a game I think most people expected to be quite close.
Yeah, exactly. Like Naas, I was kind of disappointed with Naas at the start of the first half, particularly. Like, the goal chances they had, and even I think it was fisting over the bar. They had a goal chance at the start and just decided to kick it over the bar. I was like, if you're going to have a purple patch against Kilmacud, a team like Kilmacud Crokes, and by the way, Kilmacud, I thought you epitomised it brilliantly there. They are more without Shane Walsh than they are. They're an absolutely incredible side all over the field. Like, the fella Shane Cunningham, centre forward, was outstanding. Darragh Mullen, that was quick thinking for the goal. But when you have a purple patch against that kind of a team, you have to take your goal chances. And Naas didn't do that. Like, there was one in the very first minute, they were through on goal. It was a very good piece of play. And they just had to slide it in past Conor Ferris. But instead, they pop it over the bar. And I'm like, geez, like, you have to put your foot in the accelerator these times to kill off this Kilmacud Crokes team. It might have ended up the same way. I think Kilmacud might have still won. They probably would have, because they're of the team they are. But it would have made the game a lot more closer than it was if they just slotted them goal chances into the back of the net. And when you look at Kilmacud, they had 2 goal chances in the first half and they took them. That was the difference of the game. And even the bit of inexperience we were talking about with Crossmaglen, I think that was the same with Naas as well. especially for the first goal. Even looking at the replay, I'm not sure did anybody see the replay because the game is going so fast nowadays. But the Naas defender actually puts the ball on the ground and Darragh Mullen picks it up and puts it in the net. It's brilliant thinking from Darragh Mullen. But you have to question the defender. Why is he just putting it down on the ground? Usually at junior level, like in my club down at West Cork, we'd be thinking, hold the ball, protect it, and waste a bit of time. When you're underdogs specifically. But no, he just puts the ball on the ground and it's in the back of the net. I mean, it's ridiculous, really. And the Craig Diaz goal really showed what they should have done. Look, he could have easily gone for a point in that position, but he just nailed it into the back of the net. I mean, he's an incredible footballer. And you've been saying on your podcast that he's probably too late to be on the Dublin panel. Maybe it wouldn't be much harm to have him on the bench for Dublin. I think he's that kind of a player. I think he's a very, very good player, very athletic, very good around the middle of the field. And even look at their stats today, Kilmacud Crokes. Their shot conversion rate was 80%. Yeah, I'd say 80%. That is incredible. Incredible statistic there. They had 2 wides in the entire game. One of them was by Shane Walsh from a free. So, yeah, maybe he didn't have his best game overall, but and maybe the others stepped up. And even, I was saying off air, the players off the bench, Keane O'Connor coming on, Tom Fox coming on, Brian Sheehy. Like, these are brilliant players coming off the bench. And looking at their performance today, they could even walk Leinster, I think. This is an incredible Kilmacud Crokes team. And look, even they could walk the Munster champions as well. The main test would be the All-Ireland final, which would probably be against probably a Kilcoo or Glen or Westport from Mayo, but we'll have to see in the next few weeks. But this Kilmacud Crokes team, this is the first time I watched them in full, and I have to say, Aaron, I was very, very impressed with them.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, like, they haven't looked as good as that in the Dublin Championship. And I was saying, even in my own preview for the Dublin football final, I was saying, like, I think Na Fianna could give Kilmacud Crokes their toughest test, possibly to an All-Ireland semi-final or final. And I know a lot of people after the Dublin football final were saying, oh, maybe Kilmacud Crokes aren't good enough, and like they're too reliant on Shane Walsh and everything else, missing Paul Mannion, but. The standard in Dublin is quite high, believe it or not. Despite maybe what some people think. And, like, that was obviously a huge win for them. And the thing was, like, if they could click and get it right, in the Leinster Championship. Now, to be honest, I didn't think it would be today. I was looking at them maybe when they get into Croke Park in a semi-final, a Leinster final. That's probably where they'll click into gear and sort of find their groove. But to find it as early as they have in a game against what most people perceive as the second best team in Leinster, like, it really, really does show their quality.
It does, yeah, and even putting up them score statistics as well, and their shots from play as well. It was just brilliant. It was a sight to behold for this Kilmacud Crokes team. And even, like, you were mentioning this, I think it was last week on John's podcast, the JMAT podcast, that this was a kind of game that Naas could win because it was in Parallel Park rather than Croke Park, and it was a chance to make it a dogfight. I don't think particularly Naas actually did that. I think they were just way too open at the back sometimes. But at the same time, like, Kilmacud had to play what's in front of them, and they played their cards brilliantly. I thought they were superb all throughout the game. And yeah, I was disappointed with Naas, the way they played in this game, and not being brave enough in stages. Yes, they had good performances, like Eamon Leper-Cannon was outstanding. Alex Byrne was brilliant. Darragh Kieran scored 4 points from play. And to be honest, if he was on the winning side, he'd probably get man of the match. He was outstanding today. But, it was a difficult game for Naas. It was last year was a tight affair. Kilmacud only squeaked through in the Leinster final, but today there was no sign of that. And it was a brilliant, brilliant performance. And yeah, as I said, they could even walk Leinster. Maybe Na Fianna was their toughest test. Possibly Coola was their toughest test in the semi-final. Like, that was probably the test they're going to get up until probably the other final. Because honestly, I'm from Munster now. I don't think there's much coming out of Munster, to be honest with you. Like, there's Kieran O'Rahilly's, Aero Guinness, Nebo Rangers. Like, they won't fear Kilmacud, to be honest. Or Kilmacud wouldn't fear them, to be honest. To be honest with you, like, they're pretty poor side. So yeah, I'd say Kilmacud could be going to another in the final. The question is, will they get a relevant test from now to the All-Ireland final?
Yeah, and in terms of Naas, like you mentioned, the early goal chance. Obviously from being at the game, I was telling you, like, 3/4 of the stadium were all Naas fans. You know, like if they get a goal there, like I think the place erupts. I think the fans go absolutely mental. There's a huge amount of momentum really that's with them. You know, they win the next kick out, they win the next breaking ball, maybe they go 4 up then, you know, like, so it was surprising to see them not go for goal. Like, do you think maybe it's like, because sometimes you nearly see this with Dublin down the years, and you might even see this a bit with Kerry, where there's almost a nervousness coming up against such a great team that, you know, you feel like, I better take the point here because I mightn't get a chance like this again. You know, it's going to be hard enough to get points as it is. I'm not going to risk going for a goal because what if he saves it and then it bounces out? Like, do you think maybe teams are like overthinking it maybe a little bit? There was a few times even the Fina as well got themselves into great positions and start missing chances. And like, this is something I remember I'd see quite a bit as a Dublin fan, especially in Leinster, when we come up against your Meads, your Kildares, you know, teams that, look, obviously they clearly don't have the same level of talent as a Dublin, but they get themselves into good positions where they should be scoring, or at least, you know, putting up something a bit better than they were. So what are your thoughts on that take maybe?
Yeah, it's an interesting take, to be honest with you. Like, maybe that was it with the Naas players, they were just nervous in front of goal, but I'd be always for even at club level. Like, if you're under the cosh, you have to take your goal chances pretty early on. And look, you've seen some games in Cork where that has happened as well. I think Mallow against Castlehaven was an example where Mallow scored no goals. They didn't even threaten the goal, and they could have easily gone for a goal. At times of the game with Castlehaven were vulnerable. Maybe the same happened here where they were just nervous that they'd miss it, or something bad would happen or something like that. But they have to take the chances, at least one of them. Take them, you know. There was no one around an ace player or anything. They were going straight through on goal. You know, Rory O'Carroll was there to be seen, only Conor Ferris a goal. It was a literal 1-on-1. And all he had to do was just slide it, and it's in the back of the net. I mean, and as you said, with today's fans, if the goal goes in, then it'll be a test of their character for Kilmacud Crokes. What would happen if a goal goes in against them? You know, and even in the All-Ireland series last year, including Leinster, I think the only side to score a goal against Kilmacud last year was Kilcoo. I think. I'm not entirely sure now. I don't think they scored the Leinster final a goal against them. Port Arlington probably didn't either. And the quarter final, did Wolf Tones beat? I'm not sure, but I think it was only Kilcoo, and Kilcoo beat them. So, you know, if you get a goal against this Kilmacud Crokes team, you have to test them then. And they didn't come up trumps after that test against Kilcoo last year. So what's to say they won now? You know, so I just think take the goal chances when you get them, and especially against this Kilmacud Crokes team, who've been touted as All-Ireland contenders. I still think Kilmacud would have won the game. But if Naas took those goal chances, maybe they'll put a lot more pressure on Kilmacud than they would have. And then the coin would be flipped. Kilmacud would be nervous then. And, you know, chasing the game after that. So maybe it is nerves from Naas, but maybe if they think of the other side, if you get a goal, maybe it'll make the opposition nervous.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and as we were saying there, like, it was a huge opportunity early on, a couple of other goal chances as well. And Kilmacud Crokes have been slow starters as well. Like, they conceded 1-1 early on against Thomas Davis. They started slow against Coola, slow against Nafina. And in this game, there was different points in the match where Naas hit 4 points, I think, without reply. Like, just finishing up on Naas, like, clearly have a lot of good players, and Dara Kirwan, Alex Byrne. They're obviously in the Leinster Club Senior Hurling Championship as well. So maybe they had their eyes sort of, or, you know, maybe their minds were thinking of that one as well. I'm not sure, but like, still plenty of talent there. Plenty, you know, I think most people would look at Naas as a team that could dominate Kildare the next couple of years, maybe win 3 or 4, you know, titles in a row. So, like, they're definitely not going anywhere anyway. Like, this is probably going to be, you know, they obviously played each other last year. Kilmacud Crokes and Naas are probably going to play each other again at some point, whether it be next year or even the year after.
Exactly, yeah. And even if you look at their young players as well, like their 2 star men today were Alex Byrne and Derek Irwin, and they're pretty young players. The question is, how long will Eamon Callaghan stay on? Because I always liked him as a player, and hopefully he'll win more Kildare titles as the years go on. He'd be one player that I really want to win a Leinster. He was always a player that I liked for Kildare. I think he was an outstanding player. And even look at Owen Doyle at centre back as well. How long will he stay on with this Naas side? So there is potential with this Naas team. I just think if they're going to beat Kilmacud Crokes in future years, it's probably inevitable they are going to play, as you said, they're going to play Kilmacud Crokes. But if they're going to beat them, they have to take their goal chances. They have to be more brave. That's my only qualm with them. But even looking at the hurling, I think they've Shin Rowan in the quarterfinals from Offaly, and they're pretty new to the scene. So I think actually Naas could get to a hurling quarterfinal, hurling semi-final, excuse me. So like that's over the horizon as well. I think if they win that, they play Ballyhale. They could get a hammering, but at the same time, it'll be brilliant experience for them to kill their side coming up against Ballyhale. You wouldn't see that every day.
Yeah, and obviously they won the All Ireland intermediate title last year, so certainly plenty of talent there. And you mentioned Owen Doyle, like he was the man who was picking up Shane Walsh. So I think credit to Owen Doyle as well. I thought he had a very good game, sort of keeping Walsh quiet in terms of scoring. Anyways, moving on from that, Kilmacud Crokes' opponent in the next game will be Port Arlington. They absolutely wiped the floor with Palatine, 319 to 9 points. An extraordinary result there, like a 19-point win, at club level in a Leinster Championship senior level. Like that's quite rare. And, I was saying on John's podcast that I fancied Palatine to pull off the upset. I said the same on my own predictions video as well. I think I owe a massive apology to the Port Arlington folk because, I did not see this coming. Like, fair enough. I know there's a lot of talent in Port Arlington. There's a lot of great players. I didn't expect them to be Palatine by 19 points. Like, that's some scoreline.
It is, yeah. And I didn't expect it either. I expected Port Arlington to win it, but just about. Looking at Palatine in the last game, especially in RT, I thought this Palatine team would really put it up to them. But Jesus, like Palatine shut us all up, didn't they? What a performance from them in this game. Like Rian Murphy scored 2 goals. Colin Murphy, and I've been doing scoring stats there coming on my page pretty soon with the All Irelands from county finals to provincial championships. I've been totting it up. Colin Murphy has now scored 216 in 3 games. He's one forward to watch for Kilmacud, and he was pretty good last year as well in Croke Park. Let's not forget, he was a very, very good player. Rian Murphy now scored 3-3 in 3 games. And this is well, Jake Foster's only scored a point in them 3 games, and he would have been the star player last season. So there's more to Port Arlington than you think. They're an outstanding unit. They're a very, very good side. Paddy O'Sullivan from wing back as well, and very good players. Like, I think Ronan Coffey's another one, a young player coming up in Leash. Like, geez, they're a very, very good team, Port Arlington. Will they put it up to Kilmacud? I'm not entirely sure, because I think Kilmacud are pretty good, and even if they get it put up to them, I think Kilmacud could turn it on just like that with the players they have. Even if Paul Mannion possibly comes back in there, Shane Walsh, but they gave themselves a fighting chance to get into a Leinster final with this performance, Port Arlington. What a showing! Like, I think it was 319 in this game, was it? In a club game in these weather conditions. Jesus, what a performance! What a performance from them, and they are a team to be watched definitely. And I have to look at the Paddy Power odds again. I think they have to be second in the odds now for Leinster. They have to be with that performance. Like, that was an incredible showing. And if they put up the same performance like last year and add a bit more at the performance against Kilmacud and add a bit more, which they are doing against Palatine today, if they put that up against Kilmacud, geez, I know Kilmacud are a good team, but they'll have their work cut out, Aaron, I think. This part of Port Arlington's team could be on the cusp of a big shock against Kilmacud.
Yeah, it'd be a real banana skin, all right, for Kilmacud Crokes. Like, I'd always anticipate that Naas would be Crokes' toughest test, but after seeing them put up a scoreline like that, it really does sort of raise a lot of eyebrows. And look, Kilmacud Crokes were very, very good today themselves, in fairness. And certainly we're probably coming up against higher quality opposition than what Port Arlington were facing. But yeah, like, I was just looking at the team there. Like, Jake Foster wasn't even in the squad, so I don't even know if that was an injury or something.
He was suspended, I think he was, Aaron. I think he got a straight red in the last game. So
wow, yeah. So like that shows their quality, really. Like, Colin Murphy there with 1-6. Just a point from 1-5 from play. Just looking at it here, David Murphy with 3 points, Jordan Fitzpatrick, Regan Murphy with 2-2. Adam Ryan with 2 points. A lot of very, very good players. Like, just looking at the scores here, a lot of those scores have been from play as well. So I mean, they're getting a lot of scores. And look, they played in Croke Park last year against Kilmacud Crokes. They'll get another chance again in a Leinster semi-final, similar to last year. So, and I think that game might have went extra time last year. It was very, very close anyway. Like, Port Arlington definitely pushed Kilmacud Crokes very, very close. So, look, Crokes will be the favourites, but, we've seen crazy things in the Leinster Championship down the years. You only have to ask Ratnew, Mullinachta, So why can't Port Arlington pull off a big shock?
Yeah. Exactly, yeah, and they've been dominating the Laois Championship for years as well. And I've been hearing good things about them from Cullen Parks and whatnot, Laois people overall. And that game, I don't think it necessarily went to extra time, but I think, if memory serves me correctly, Keane O'Connor, the substitute for Kilmacud, got a late goal, and that put them ahead for the first time in the game. Like, that tells you all need to know that Kilmacud have to be wary of this test, Port Arlington. Like, they might be from Laois, who are struggling in Division 4, but this side have been dominating Laois football for years now. And this is a side that don't rely, as they did last year, on Jake Foster and Colin Murphy, as you mentioned there. They have loads of other scores across the board, and even against Castledown, Liam Mellows, I don't think they played to their best in the preliminary round, but they got a goal from an unlikely source, their number 7, Paddy O'Sullivan. So, they have a very, very good team all over the pitch, and I'd really rate Port Arlington to put up a shock here. And Kilmacud are a very, very good side, but that very good side needed a late Keane O'Connor. And this was a Kilmacud team with Paul Mannion in the team. And Paul Mannion was reduced to really nothing in the game in Croke Park, and in Croke Park as well. So that just shows you. And Port Arlington have improved as well. So this, I hope it's live on RT. I think it's on a Saturday week. So I think it could be live on RT, seeing it's in Croke Park. So should be a very, very fascinating encounter. I'll be looking forward to see what Port Arlington have up their sleeve this time round.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the scoreline from last year. So it was 111 to 12 points. So there was only 2 points in it last year when they played each other. And as I said, Keane O'Connor's goal, the difference in the end coming off the bench. So, that could be massive. And that was when they had Paul Mannion in their team as well. Now I know obviously they didn't have Shane Walsh then, and he probably slots in as a replacement in many ways. But yeah, look, a huge chance. I mean, what are your thoughts on the semi-finals being in Croke Park? That's sort of an interesting one as well. I was kind of nearly thinking of it as well. It's almost, in some ways, it's an advantage to Kilmacud Crokes, because I know obviously they won the Leinster Championship last year, so they got to play there, but it's not exactly a neutral venue in my opinion. Crokes that won't have to travel too far, whereas Port Arlington will have to travel quite far, and it's kind of a shame. I would have liked to seen it in a provincial grounds. I don't think Croke Park is going to sell out that well, to be honest. Having been at the game between Naas and Crokes today, very few Crokes fans there, if I'm being honest. Obviously they're in the hurling as well, so a lot of fans are going to be probably spending a lot of money following them up and down the country. So what are your thoughts on that? I suppose it's good for the clubs, it's good for Port Arlington, it's good for the Downs that they have an opportunity to play in Croke Park, but at the same time, I don't know. I feel like it's very, it definitely favors Kilmacud Crokes quite a lot. Maybe that's just because of how good they are. Maybe that's just the scenario. But what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Last year, I was contacted about this on Instagram and stuff like that, saying I think the semi-finals after were Shed against Naas, and obviously Kilmacud against Port Arlington, and a lot of people were saying the atmosphere looked dead, and the fact that Munster, Connacht, and Ulster teams weren't playing in there, it's a bit of a disgrace. But I was thinking to myself, it's brilliant for the club game, just to give the players the recognition they deserve. Craig Dias, for example, for Kilmacud. He's probably never going to play for Dublin again. As much as we both want him to play for Dublin, he's an outstanding footballer. But his only chance of playing in Croke Park is with Kilmacud Crokes. And you look at Port Arlington's team as well. Jake Foster's originally from Kerry. He's not going to get in the Kerry team, let's be honest, ahead of David Clifford or Paddy Clifford or the brilliant players that carry the nurture there down the kingdom. So the only chance he'll get to play in Croke Park is with Port Arlington. You look at the Downs. A lot of them players, the only chance they'll get is to play in Croke Park is with the Downs. Ratto, the same thing as well. So, I think in some ways it's a brilliant opportunity. I do see the sides of the arguments from, let's say, Neighbour Rangers fans or Westport fans or Mike Cullen fans, that it's unfair that they get to play in Croke Park and we get to play in something like Semple Stadium, which are not bad grounds by any manner of means. I think they're excellent grounds in their own right. But it does have a bit of an advantage there, even if Port Arlington do beat Kilmacud, if they do cause the shock, and they go on to win Leinster, beating someone like Ratto in the final in Croke Park as well. That'll be 2 games under their belts in Croke Park. So maybe there's a bit of an argument there that it's kind of skewed in a way to Leinster sides. But let's not forget, Kilmacud beat Kilmacud eventually last season. So they threw that excuse right out the window. So, maybe if top sides like, let's say, Kilmacud, Glen, Westport, Nemo Rangers, if they don't make excuses, maybe they can challenge the Leinster sides. But if they do make excuses, it'll make the task worse for themselves in a way. So I personally think it's brilliant for these clubs to go up to Croke Park, and even like Ratholt fans, the Downs fans, to go up to Croke Park. I mean, it'll be a brilliant day out for Port Arlington to get there 2 years in a row. You wouldn't have expected them to get there once in 3 years or 4 years, never mind twice in 2. So it's a brilliant opportunity for these clubs, and I'm all for it, even though I am a Munster man. I'm all for it. Like, it's brilliant for these clubs. It's brilliant for the fans having a day out in Croke Park. You wouldn't usually, like, think of Laois, for example. Laois don't usually get to Croke Park in football or hurling. Westmeath don't either, if there wasn't a Tattoo Cup this season. I think Meath only played there once this season against Dublin, where they got a trimming. So for Ratholt fans particularly as well, I think it's a brilliant thing. I think it's an absolute brilliant thing that they're going to play in Croke Park. But I do see the sides of the argument from other provinces that it does give a bit of an opportunity that they're used to playing there in a way.
Yeah, it's just interesting, all right, because they certainly haven't always had the semi-finals in Croke Park, and like even the hurling finals last year, the hurling semi-finals last year were in O'Muir Park and O'Connor Park. So it's kind of interesting, all right, that it's just the football semi-finals they're putting in Croke Park. I'm not entirely sure as to why. Like, as you said, it's great for the clubs, it's a great opportunity for them to play there, but I'm just not entirely sure as to why exactly. Like, I suppose maybe there isn't too many big provincial grounds outside of Croke Park, like Cusick Park, maybe Parnell Park a little bit. I'm not entirely sure, but as you said, like, good opportunity for the clubs to play in Croke Park, and maybe that's just the nature of how it is with those counties being from Leinster. Moving on from that, a side that will be playing in Croke Park as well as Ratholt. They beat Road 11 points to 9. Definitely quite low scoring as opposed to a lot of the other games we've mentioned, and obviously the Downs put up a big victory as well versus RD. But looking at Ratholt, first of all, like, it took a bit of a late comeback. Daithí McGowan getting a couple of points in there. Obviously, neither of us have seen the game or seen any highlights or anything like that. We'll probably get to see it on the TG Caher highlights show tomorrow night or whatever. But big results, and Road, as we've seen before, like, their doggedness to get over the line and Offaly shows that they're a tough team themselves. So big results for Ratholt, and I suppose first time in a while that a Meath football team at club level has delivered a big result.
Yeah, it is, and Ratholt have been top of Meath the football tree for so many years now. And I was hearing on some match report, Aaron, I don't know if this is correct, David Brady was involved in a touchline scuffle again. I don't know, is that true or not, but I think it's believable. I honestly think it's believable, to be honest with you. Like, I know he follows me on loads of accounts and all that, and I've messaged him and all that. He seems like a sound lad, but Jesus, like, that's two fights in a row on the sidelines. And I think he does have a bit of steel about him, doesn't he, David Brady? He wants to win this Leinster Championship to knock Kilmacud off. I'm not sure now, like, from a Mayo man. Well, what else can you expect from a Mayo man coming up against a Dublin club, or even Shane Walsh, of course, a Galway man, so that'll be a story in of itself if Ratholt reach the final. But look at Ratholt's scores, actually. They only have matched 23 points across the game against Somerville and Road, which kind of suggests to me, I think they're a defensive team. I obviously haven't watched Ratholt in full games or whatnot, but I think David Brady's kind of sent their team up defensively. Will it work in Croke Park against the Downs? I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to see about that. But, very good win for Ratholt. And a lot of people I know from social media are from Ratholt, and they'll be delighted, I'd say, and getting over the line in this game. And best of luck to them in the semi-final. It'll be a Westmeath derby in the semi-final. It should be very interesting. And I'd be very intrigued to see if David Brady gets involved in a hat-trick of scuffle sidelines or something like that. It'd be brilliant.
Yeah, I was just seeing a tweet there from GAA Edits, actually. It was saying just a few weeks after being shown a red card in the Meath Senior Football Championship, which was later rescinded, Mayo man David Brady was involved in yet another scuffle following his Rathout side over Road. Quite a funny photo there as well. I'll try to get open the screen at some point. But yeah, so I mean, you're spot on there. He's fighting a lot of people on the sideline. I don't know, maybe we need to get him a pair of boxing gloves or something. He's a bit like Mike Tyson down there on the sideline.
Geez, I'd say you need for the Downs players. I'd say for the Downs management team, you need a few helmets because or else they'll be knocked out. Like it'll be a very, very dangerous thing there. But yeah, I think the sideline officials need to keep. I'd say they need 2 pairs of eyes just to keep an eye on him. It'd be very, very interesting to see what happens there. But geez, like imagine if this happens on live TV on RT. Like Jesus, like it. But imagine the disappointment, Aaron, if once Ratto go on live TV and then he doesn't get in the sideline scuffle. I'd be so disappointed now. The entertainment will be just gone. It's just. Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. Jesus.
Yeah, they're definitely hot-headed, but look, sometimes you need characters on the sideline, and sometimes that can spur you on. Like sometimes it's the madness that can actually drive you towards greatness. Sometimes we've seen that with there's plenty of examples in sport and soccer, boxing, everything of crazy people, mad people, and sometimes it's that craziness within them that can sort of bring the best out in others. So look, I mean, in terms of the result, look, it's a big win, it's a big result. And obviously for David Brady, I'm sure he'll want to relax a bit, maybe going into the semi-finals. But big result, and obviously they'll play the Downs up next. It was the Downs 117, RD 12 points. Luke Loughlin looking very good as well for the Downs there from what I've seen. Big result. RD, as you were saying, I was saying as well, like they're a type of team that could maybe cause a shock. A couple of good players in there, a couple of loud players in their team, but big result for the Downs.
Yeah, very good results. And I mentioned RD, they won an under 14 Fela Division 4 thing, and they beat our club 280 to no score at a 30-minute game. And that level, I thought they were an excellent side. RD look at the club championship this season, and the Downs really put them away, didn't they? 117 to 12 points or something like that. Like, geez, that's like a bit of a hammering. And I looked at the match report as well. Luke Loughlin scored 5 points from play. What a story from this guy. Like, he's an incredible footballer, but to come back from his own problems this season, to win a Westmeath Championship, to set up a goal in the Tailteann Cup final, leading his team to victory in that competition, and now he's playing in Croke Park again for Leinster Club semi-final with his beloved the Downs. I mean, it's an incredible story. It's one of the stories of the year for this guy. I think he's an inspiration for anybody facing their own problems at home. I think he's an incredible player as well. I think he's a quality player, and scoring 5 points today shows that. Like, he's an incredible player. It was disappointing for RD to lose that game. I thought they'd be performing better than they did. Like, Darragh McConnell only scored 1 point today. That takes his time to 3-7 in 3 games, which is still pretty good, but not good enough to beat the Downs. Like, they've pretty good players like the Jacksons, RD do, but geez, very good result for the Downs, and they'll be in Croke Park. And what a story Luke Loughlin is having this season.
Yeah, I've seen Kevin O'Sullivan with a goal and a couple of points in there as well. So big performance from him. Niall Mitchell contributing, but yeah, huge result, like to knock up 117. And I was thinking there as well, like I think maybe only Shane Walsh has played in Croke Park, like other than Dublin footballers, obviously has played in Croke Park more than Luke Loughlin in terms of his, senior games. Because obviously Luke Loughlin played there in the Tailteann Cup. He played there in the Tailteann Cup semi-finals as well, and now obviously he's going to get to play once again. If they win, they're then in the Tailteann or in the Leinster Club final. So, for a player who plays in Westmeath, they don't get to play in Croke Park too often, and he would have played in the Leinster semi-finals there as well. So, he really is putting Westmeath on the map. And as you said, 5 points from play, brilliant performance. And for Rat Out and David Brady, look, I mean, they're going to be pulling their hair out on the sideline. Maybe he might start fighting him. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that'll be a plan up David Brady's sleeve, just to get the toughest, stickiest marker on Luke Loughlin as possible. But that'll be David Brady in a nutshell, or even to pull a few punches on the sideline or something like that. And even, like, on a serious note, though, I think, would that 2 scuffles in a row, would that be suspension from David Brady?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know how it works. Like, I don't know. Like, obviously, with the first time around, I don't even think there was any cards or anything. But as we very well know in the GAA, like suspensions are just very, very lenient. Like they'll give a suspension, you know, it might be a 1-game suspension, but then it will get brought back, you know, it'll be obviously appealed and everything else. So I don't really know. Like, I mean, obviously neither of us have seen the second scuffle. So we don't want to be saying he should be or he shouldn't be. And I think for entertainment purposes, anyway, I certainly hope that he isn't. You know, I hope that he is there on the sideline. And yeah, like even if Rato's got to a final against Kilmacud Crokes, you know, that would definitely be a bit of a story. But in terms of the game itself, the Downs versus Ratos, I mean, who would you be fancying? I know it's obviously a tough prediction given that neither of us have really seen both sides, but from what you've heard maybe and the different players on either side, like who would you maybe be leaning towards?
Jeez, I think this could be a game like Shelby Lears and Naas last season that could go to extra time. I honestly think so. Like, look at the sides for match reports and stuff like that, and take into account the Downs have Luke Loughlin, Rato have good players like Conor McGill and things like that, and Jack Flynn as well, Dahi McGowan, of course, the brilliant band and management as David Brady. I think that could be the difference. Brady being manager. I think Rato could win it, but it'll be very, very tight. It'll probably be after extra time or something like that. And even for them to face Kilmacud Crokes, would that be a story for David Brady to come up against Shane Walsh? Mayo against Galway in a Leinster final. Jesus, like that. The stories of the club championship keep rolling on and on and on. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Downs beat them. To be honest with you, like they're a pretty good side. But even Port Arlington on the other side, like, geez, I'm looking forward to this Leinster semi-final pair. It should be two crackers in Croke Park.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and I don't know if it'd be nice if both games were a double header on a Saturday. Like, I'd like to see both teams play. Like, I probably will go to the Kilmacud Crokes Port Arlington game, but we'll obviously have to wait and see in regards to that whether it will be a double header. But yeah, I'd probably edge towards the Downs maybe, but Ratos looking very good as well. Like, it's gonna be very, very close. Definitely could be extra time, possibly more. Looking at the Limerick football final, it was Newcastle West 111, Adair 2-5. So Newcastle West, the last of the county champions in football. Anyways, they did need extra time. Ian Corbett got a point there as well from what I seen. Obviously, Newcastle West were in the Munster Club Championship last year, but obviously got beat by Austin Sachs, I think it was. So, I mean, look, I don't think anyone would really be expecting them to beat either the Cork or the Tipperary champions. That's who they'll be playing in the semi-finals. Stranger things have happened in football, but look, good result for Newcastle West. They're clearly a dominant side in Limerick football.
They are, yeah, but they need the extra time to beat it. Their side is mostly hurling, so that would be a worry for Newcastle West. And I was hearing from some Kerry supporters, Austin Sack supporters, that they're a pretty poor team, Newcastle West. I don't know the ins and outs of it now, but they do have Ian Corbett, they've Keane Sheehan in the team, two outstanding performances for Limerick in the championship this season. A very good Limerick team, may I add, as well. So, like, they do have the players, but performance-wise, I don't think they're up to scratch. They'll be playing, obviously, Clonmel Commercials or Libor Rangers. That's an RT next Saturday night. Like, that should be an interesting game. But you'd have to imagine the winners of that game will go to the Munster final, because Newcastle West, I don't think they're up to much, to be honest with you. Limerick in inter-county football is pretty good at the moment. They've been Ray Dempsey coming down as manager. But in terms of club football, I don't think it's up to scratch. I really don't. Like, Adair are mostly a hurling side. They drove Newcastle West to the pit of their collar today. That probably shows that they aren't really up to it. So I think you'd have to expect Nemo, Clonmel Commercials, whoever wins that game next Saturday night, to go straight through to a Munster final.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think when you look at the talent levels of Nemo Rangers and even Clonmel Commercials as well, like they certainly will be the favourites, I think. But crazy things have happened in the club championship, so you just never know sometimes. But it certainly will be tough, I think, for Newcastle West to do anything there. But I think, like with a lot of counties, probably the same in Waterford and a few others, I think probably the county title is the main thing there. And look, Newcastle West have won back-to-back county titles in Limerick, so I'm sure they'll be very, very happy with that. Moving on to the hurling, there was one game really to discuss from the Munster Club Hurling Championship. It was Ballygunner 419, Kilrowan McDonough's 14 points. So the Waterford champions and the reigning All-Ireland champions looking very, very good. It was obviously tough for Kilrowan you know, like they played obviously in the replay last weekend. Ballygunner haven't played in, I think, 4 or 5 weeks or something like that. So they had a lot of rest coming into this game, but very, very commanding result. 17-point win in the end for the All-Ireland champions. And I suppose in a similar fashion, the Kilmacud Crokes, look, they showed that, look, they're not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was watching this game as well at TG Car, and I was really impressed with Ballygunner. They were against the wind in the first half, and they still led by 7 points at halftime. That just shows you how good a side they are. They're pretty good. Like Patrick Fitzgerald, only 18 years of age, and he scored 1-4 from play, 1-3 from play in the first half. What an incredible performance by him. Kevin Manny with 2-2 as well. Jesus, what a showing from them. And this is like Desi Hutchinson all over the championship, I think, is their third highest scorer. And that just shows you, like, he was a big scorer for them last season. And he's still probably low down the pecking order. It's not because Desi's playing bad or anything. He scored 3 points from play today. But it's just the other players around them. There's more coming up for this Ballygunner team. And it's an incredible show. And Kilruan, in fairness to them, I thought they played pretty well. Unlike Naas, I think Naas really threw on the towel. Like Kilruan, I thought played pretty well. Like Keane Darcy, Jerome Cahill, Willie Cleary at wing forward was pretty good as well. So they really showed that they had bottle and all that. But I think Ballygunner, they're just class. Absolute class. And I think the real test would be the Piershig next time out in the semi-final. That should be an absolute cracker of a game. But yeah, Ballygunner, they're definitely on the rise. And Harry Ruddle, the All-Ireland final hero, scored a goal again today. Like, Jesus, when does he ever give up? What a player he is to come off the bench. And yeah, pretty good win for Ballygunner, pretty routine in the end, but Kilruan can hold their heads up high.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously having played last weekend, and obviously that was a replay as well. So this is what their third week on the spin. So I imagine there was some fatigue and maybe 1 or 2 hangovers early in the week as well, sort of leading up to this game. But yeah, like as you said, like I mean, with Ballygunner, they just have so much talent, like Porrick Mahoney, Kevin Mahoney, Pat Fitzgerald, as you said, Peter Hogan even as well, you know, like the Ian Kenny in there, like so many inter-county players in their team. And you know, like now that they've gotten, because I think last year the big sort of thing was, can they get through Munster? They've so many great players, they've so much talent, can they live up to their potential and win the All-Ireland? And as you were saying, Harry Ruddle obviously gets that late goal that wins them the All-Ireland. But now you're looking at them and you're thinking, they've got that monkey off their back. Obviously, Ballyhale are still there. The Piershig, I'm sure, are going to be a tough test in the semi-finals. But with the talent levels that they have, I mean, you know, like it's going to be very hard to stop them this year.
It is, yeah. Even though their performance today, they put it away Kilruan very, very early in the game. Like this was a Kilruan team that had the win to their advantage in the first half. They only scored 7 points. Well, I say only, like it was a pretty good tally at the same time. But against the win, Ballygunner scored 111. I mean, I think it was 110 for play overall. I think out of their 319, they scored 416, sorry, from play. I mean, Jesus, what a team this team is, Ballygunner. It's an outstanding achievement by them. But as I said, the Piershig will be the acid test. They have brilliant players all over the field. Will Haynes, a very good player. Adrian Breen, David Dempsey. Jeez, who else? They have very good players all over the field anyway, this the Piershig side. So Paddy O'Lough, or he's Kilmallock, Jesus. They have some very good players anyway in the Piershig. They have very good players all over the field. So this will be a tougher test than Kilmallock last year, because I think Kilmallock didn't particularly have much inter-county talent last season, whereas the Piershig do. Another big test as well, if they get over Ballyhay, probably would be St. Finbarrs. They're only concentrating on hurling this season, so they could be a big test. They have big, strong players as well. So, like Ballygunner will have their tests definitely en route to the All-Ireland semi-final, but you'd have to expect them at this stage still to get there. They're an incredible side, but I think the way the draw is going, they'll face the Leinster champions in the semi-final. So I think we're en route for a Ballyhale Ballygunner semi-final. Like, that's an incredible draw right there, and you'll be a brave man to predict the winner of that one.
Yeah, you definitely would be. I mean, it's going to be some fireworks at that game. Obviously, repeat of last year's All-Ireland final and everything else, but obviously a lot of if, buts and maybes between now and then. Like obviously Ballyhale still have to come through Leinster, Ballygunner still have to come through Munster. But yeah, I think you know, there isn't a GAA fan on the planet who wouldn't want to see that game. But But yeah, look, I suppose that very much wraps it up in terms of all the club action from the weekend. In terms of your club moment of the week, I know there's probably not as much to choose from now as previous weeks. The games are sort of thinning down quite a bit. But what would you be picking?
Jesus, like before I came in here, I was thinking of one in particular. I was thinking of Paul Findlay getting the man of the match, but I was thinking you mentioned that. And I was just thinking what else would come up. And something come up in this podcast, David Brady on the sideline. Has to be.
Yeah.
You know, for the second game in a row, it has to be this guy because like there's the argument, when is this gonna stop, you know? And it probably stop in Croke Park once all the cameras are on him now. But geez, that's my moment of the week anyway. I know it's not within the GAA. It's not within the ethics of the GAA in a way, but it has to be David Brady fighting for the second time in a row. Who would have thought it?
Yeah, absolute madness. And I suppose you're right there. Yeah, like I think Paul Findlay is sort of the only one I can think of there, maybe. Obviously 39 years of age, kicking 4 points, playing the performance that he played, absolutely superb. Suppose you look at Ballygunner's performance, 4-16 from play, that's absolutely remarkable. And then even Port Arlington as well, like to score 319, a lot. And from looking at a match report there, like a lot of that from play, without a player in Jake Foster, who's obviously suspended. So, and like I thought Palatine were pretty impressive the last time out as well against St. Patrick's. So that definitely shows how good they are. But yeah, look, cheers very much, Matthew, for coming on. Much appreciated. And yeah, I suppose best of luck next weekend. Nemo Rangers, Clonmel Commercials. What's your prediction there out of interest?
Geez, so I'm nervous for them because Nemo Rangers, they put up good performance one week and then they floured the sea the next week. But I'm kind of hopeful now Luke Connolly will step up in front of the cameras now on RT and show what he's made of and, show John Cleary really. I think Nemo should win the game, but Clonmel will be a very, very tough game. And yeah, it should be a very interesting game. Hopefully Nemo get over the line and hopefully they get through to play Kilmacud Crokes. Would that be some cracker?
It absolutely would. And I suppose to finish up, Roisin asks here, will Ballybay beat Kilmacud? Look, you never know. It'd certainly give them an opportunity, give them a chance, but I probably would be leaning towards Kilmacud if I'm being honest. But then again, me and Matthew here both felt that Crossmaglen would be comfortable against Crossmaglen or against Ballybay. And I think a lot of people expected that. So, sometimes you just have these moments, you have these teams that produce shocks. They come around every now and again, usually 1 or 2 teams a year. So, look, we certainly won't be ruling them out anyways. But, yeah, cheers anyone who tuned in. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. If you can, make sure to check out the GAA Statsman podcast as well when you get a chance. And also GAA Statsman on Instagram as well. Plenty of stats on matches and everything else. So, yeah, cheers, Matthew, for coming on.
Thanks very much, Aaron. Glad to be on every week, really.